don't be so hard on yourself. Like, I've been in business now for 11 years and I really thought I would be a multi-millionaire. Oh, my life is going to be so different. But I talked about this on my podcast as well several years ago, where I said, what if the dream is ugly? Like, what if the path to get to where you want to go isn't a straightforward path? What if it is like, you run into dead ends? What if you have to go back to the beginning? You have to be prepared for all of these things. And sometimes when I get into a place of longing for that next level or that next step, I just remind myself that it takes as long as it takes. Lean into it and hone whatever craft it is that you want to be excellent in, because success doesn't happen overnight, and success is in the details and the time that you put in. This is Sakita Holley, better known on social media as Miss Success, and you are listening to Dreams and Drive.
Hey, Dream Drivers, life moves fast, but time stands still when you're with the ones you love. Savor the moment, big or small, with Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee. From bottled Frappuccino drinks to canned nitro cold brew, Starbucks coffee gets you ready for the right now. Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee is available now, online, or wherever you buy groceries. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 321 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today we have back in the guest chair one of my favorite people. She was somebody who has been an inspiration to me from before I even graduated college, Miss Sakita Holley. Sakita is the founder and CEO of House of Success PR, and she's also the host of the Sakita Method podcast. There's so much more that I could say. She's a dope person in public relations. She's the dope, intellectual, creative, mastermind strategist behind some of your favorite beauty campaigns. There's just so much that I could say about Sakita, but I'll let you go listen to episode 6 if you want to hear her full story. And then this episode is going to be a continuation of just how much she's evolved since we first spoke. Sakita really just gives our dream drivers some lessons, like take your time, but don't waste your time. Bloom where you are planted, right? Perform for the people who are already in their seats. Remember just how important it is to have a desire to be better, right? There's so much that we talk about in this episode, and I'm just so grateful and so humbled and just so honored that Sakita graced this podcast once again so that you all could hear just how much gem she has for all you dream drivers. If you enjoy this episode, I'm asking that you share it with your community, right? Screenshot it on Instagram stories, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you are online, wherever your community is. Send this to one person, right? Just send this to one person. That is what I ask of you after you finish listening. And remember to follow us on social media as well. You can find Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and use that hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing so I can go in and see what y'all are talking about and what types of conversations that this episode is spurring within you. All right, let's hear from Sakita. Hey, Sakita, I am so happy to have you back on the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back. Anytime you ask me, I'm going to pull up. But also, can we just take a moment for you? Can we just have a moment for you and your journey with Dreams and Drive and all of the people you've been able to reach and inspire and impact with the dream that you had? And I remember before you started, we had a conversation and I was like, go for it, because you're so talented in a lot of different ways, but you do have a gift for interviewing and bringing things out of people. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge you.
Yeah, and I will never forget being in college, right? And reaching out to you and you having that conversation with me in my dorm room and all that. So we're going to talk about it on an interview because it's something I'll just never forget. And I'm happy, 10 years later, right? We're still in touch. Because I want to say it had to be right after you just quit your job. So maybe 2012-ish.
Yep.
You were in some feature of the New York PR people to know. And I'm like, okay, I need to reach out to her then.
Right. Yeah. So we definitely connected when you were still in school or right after your graduation. So, but again, we kept in touch. I knew you were a star. So.
Oh, Thank you. Thank you. You were episode 6, our episode 6 guest, March of 2016.
Wow.
Right? Think about that. That's like over 6 years ago. Hasn't life changed since then in so many ways?
Yes, it has, which is, it's insane to even just think like, wow, 6 years have passed. Like,
it seems long, but it doesn't seem that long. I'm like, I kind of like, it's funny how quick the years go when you're not when you're having fun, but when life is moving, right?
Exactly.
As well.
When life is having its way with you.
Well, for those who may have not listened to episode 6 yet, right? I would love for you to just give us a quick one-on-one. Who is Sakita Holley?
Sakita Holley is an entrepreneur. I own and run a PR firm called House of Success PR. We work with beauty and lifestyle consumer product brands. I also host a podcast called The Sakita Method, where I talk about PR and business advice, and I interview other creators and entrepreneurs about the methods that have made them successful.
I love it. Definitely go check out the Sakita Method wherever you listen to your podcast. Something I asked you this on the original episode, but let's go back to it because maybe the answer has changed. What was inspiring you as a kid? Like, what was really lighting you up about the world, of young Sakita?
That's a great question. And the thing that comes to mind for me is I was always so observant, and I observed that, my family didn't have much. So I was always inspired by books, like the places I could go in books we couldn't afford to go in real life, or, the type of lifestyle that people live that we couldn't afford, or things that I aspired to. I would just devour books, magazines, anything that I could find. And once I identified like, oh, I like these things, and then you realize what you have to do to get them. I think that's part of what inspired my drive, is just realizing that, sometimes you can feel like you're destined for a life of greatness or a life of luxury or softness, as the girls say today.
Soft life hashtag.
Okay. But I just knew that I wanted more, even at a very young age. But it wasn't just gimme, gimme, gimme. It was like, I'm willing to work for anything that I want. So I think my inspiration really came from books and magazines and just reading about people that had made something out of nothing.
So I read this. I think this must be a new bio that you put up on your site about one of your first jobs at McDonald's, and how you took it very seriously, right? What do you think you learned at that job, right? That if you look back at it, you could be like, wow, I had those skills then and I still have those skills now.
Oh my gosh. I loved that job. I loved working at McDonald's.
Really?
I loved working at McDonald's. It was because, again, as a teenager, right? Everybody likes McDonald's at that age for the most part. So it's like you go in, you get to work with other teens, and it was just a fun environment. But I also loved learning about business. So it wasn't, you go into the job, you may be assigned an area. You may apply to be a cashier or a cook, or you may apply to work in a drive-thru. Like the drive-thru was like the coveted place that if you were good enough, you could get into the drive-thru, because again, it's time. You're supposed to get customers like in and out. So it was like a game to us. Like, how efficient can we be? How great can we make somebody's experience? So, and that's the type of thing that still drives me today in terms of customer experience, or how can we delight somebody today? So my experience at McDonald's, it was just all about leveling up. Like, okay, once I learned the register, let me figure out how to prepare food, even though that wasn't even a part of my job. But had I still been, let's say, at McDonald's or on that trajectory, I would easily own a McDonald's today.
You still could, girl. You still could.
Of course. But it's just like no matter, that just goes to show you, no matter where you are, like people may look down on that job if you have it as an adult, but no matter where you are, if you set a goal for yourself, you can literally go from cashier to owner.
Right. And I think that nickname that you had of Miss Success, right? It's like, you could be a Miss Success anywhere.
Anywhere.
Sometimes I think we think that, it only has to be at a certain type of like position or this dream job, but you can have that title anywhere you go.
Absolutely. And I have this quote where I say, bloom where you're planted, right? And it says just that. It doesn't matter if you've reached your destination. You can be excellent right where you are. You can be excellent if you're still a beginner. Whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability.
Oh, I love that theme of blooming where planted. So let's kind of take that. And you guys, you can get Sakita's full story in episode 6, right? This is not going to be a recap of your journey, right? Because we already talked about that. But I want to take that and like that bloom where you're planted. And let's kind of, if we're sticking a dot on a timeline, right? Let's go back in time to, was it January 2011?
It was.
All right.
Well, I quit in December 2010. Okay. And my first day, I literally started 2011 without a job as the CEO of this thing called House of Success PR with no clients, the whole thing. So yes, January 1st, 2011.
Right, so let's pretend that we're putting this seed, right? We're planting the seed. It's January 2011 and you are the CEO, right? Miss Success, you got some big girl shoes now, right? You got some high heel stilettos. You're like, listen, it's funny because the old name of your blog was hashtags and stilettos. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anyway, can never forget it.
You are there and you are blooming where you're planted. Like, looking back, right? That's over 10 years ago. Did you get to bloom when where you planted yourself? Like, talk to us about that journey and just about like a lot of the changes or some of the changes that really helped you grow as a person over these past 10 years as a CEO.
Absolutely. So the question, was I able to bloom where I was planted?
Like, how did you bloom where you planted?
How did I bloom? The reality was on that day, January 1, 2011, I had no clients and barely any money in the bank. So I had to pound the pavement, if you will, and try to drum up business. So I was reaching out to businesses or entrepreneurs that I felt like could use PR. I was back then, now 10 years, I was looking for people on Craigslist, anybody that was like looking for a publicist or anybody that I identified could use some of the skills that I had. Yeah. I was reaching out to them. And that was how I initially got, my first few clients. Now, we're blessed to get referrals and people kind of coming inbound versus us having to kind of go out and pull people in. But once you do something as major as quitting your job with nothing lined up, no backup plan other than, building a business from the ground up, you have to bloom. You have to figure out how to make it work, or you're going to wind up having to go and get another job. And luckily for the last 11 years, I've been able to sustain myself as a full-time entrepreneur. So
what do you think it was about yourself that made you not give up? I mean, you might have wanted to along these past 11 years, but like, was there something specific to your journey that just wasn't part of it?
I wanted to give up and still have moments where I want to give up a lot. Like that is kind of par for the course. It was very hard. And what's interesting about me being on your podcast in 2016 is like from 2011 to 2016, I feel like 2016 is probably when things started to take a turn for the better for the business. So you have 5 years of really grinding and struggling to kind of make it work. There were a lot of tears shed, especially that first year, because, bills are still coming. You don't have the funds to pay for it. And it was just a lot. It was hard. And I think for me, what allowed me to keep going is I really believed in myself. This wasn't like a fly by night decision. I planned 6 months before I quit that I was going to quit. I started House of Success as a company when I was still an undergrad at Howard University. And of course, I was doing everything for free, wasn't making any money, but I have always been entrepreneurial. It was something I feel like God put in me. And when you feel like you have a God-given thing, you can decide not to lean into it. You can decide not to do it. But the thing about God is that it's not going to leave you. You're gonna either do it or you're gonna be miserable. So, you can try and put it off or distract yourself from it, but eventually you need to, do it if you truly feel like it's a step on the path of your destiny.
Looking back, right, did you know it was a turning point for you that year 2016, or did you not realize it until later? And I say, right, because sometimes you're in the midst of it, you don't realize things are changing. Like, how do you remember that being for you?
I felt it. I didn't know what it was or what it meant, but the turning point really started for me personally in 2015. There was just like a shift in me. Like I felt like, okay, I have put in this work. I know what I'm doing, regardless of what I'm encountering when I'm out here pitching the business. I feel like I have earned the right to be confident in my abilities, even though it was still a kind of upward climb. But 2016 came on I was in the middle of doing some of the best work that I had done since I had started the business. And it was work that was being recognized industry-wide. I'm talking other CEOs were noticing and commenting on some of the things and campaigns that we were doing. So I knew that, okay, finally, people are seeing it, right? It's one thing to do the work, see the results, but when it's being understood and seen and the changes are being seen and felt on a broader level, I was just like, okay, cool. And then, other companies came calling shortly after that, and it really changed everything.
Yeah, for people who don't know, you are really part of, I want to say, I mean, I'm not necessarily in the industry, but I feel like I'm a consumer, right, of the people that, the brands that you represent. And something that comes to mind is I know people were talking about that Lotta Body box that you put together.
Yes.
And the head scarves, and just like, you really were a game changer in how brands were marketing, like multicultural brands were marketing to us and engaging with us. Like now that you can look back and see all that work that you've done, like how does it feel to know that you were part of that innovation?
It's incredibly validating because with the time that has passed, I can stand on the fact that we pioneered a lot of those changes in how brands were communicating. Lotta Body wasn't even on social media before we represented them. They had no points on the board other than the legacy of their products from the 90s, but you're trying to reach a new consumer who may have been somewhat familiar. So the expectations were extremely low. So we exceeded them, but it put not only the brand back on consumer radars, but it put the brand on the radars of other brand execs because they were like, where the hell are they coming from? And who's behind it? Exactly. And it's like, how are they now back in this conversation and who is responsible? So that is kind of like one of the crown jewels in terms of projects and things that we've been able to work on where I can literally point to tangible results, and PR and marketing can sometimes be very intangible where if you're only the people who are in the business can understand the nuance of it. But that was one where you cannot deny the impact. You can't.
Yeah. And, I love too that you guys were just really pushing innovation, right? Like what advice would you give to someone who's a creator? Maybe they're building on their own company and they're just scared to step into a new season, right? Whether it's for a client, for themselves. Why is that so important?
The interesting thing about saying we leaned into innovation is when you think about how brands market, right, especially 5 to 10 years ago, the innovative thing that we did was treat people like people.
Yeah.
And treat consumers like somebody we could know, a friend, a sister, a brother, a cousin. It was really going back to basics at a human level and saying, let's talk to these people at the level where they are. Let's not talk at them. Let's talk with them. Let's invite them to participate in this conversation. Let's hear what they think and, let's get their thoughts. And now, we see that a lot with companies. But at the time, it felt innovative because brands were often scared to do that because they felt like if you open up this window for people to talk back to us or to talk with us, you're going to get people that are not saying such great things. But as long as you're putting your best foot forward as a company and your brand, that should be the least of your concerns. You want people to feel passionate about enough to criticize or give you feedback, constructive feedback that can help you be better in the long run. But a lot of brands at the time were scared. And that's one of the reasons why so many of them hesitated when it came to social media, because it allows consumers to talk directly to you. But when you treat people like people, you're going to get good results.
Yep. And, I wonder, do you feel like now, I feel like now, since it's 2022, brands definitely know that you have to kind of use social media and speak to your consumer. But what do you think, it could have gone from not doing enough to now doing too much and just talking to everybody and thinking that you have to comment on anything. What's your take on beauty and how people are approaching social media, PR, influencer marketing now?
I think they're trying, but there's still a lot of hesitation at the executive level, and the executives have kind of, in some cases, not all, but in some cases have kind of washed their hands with even trying to really understand it. They know that it's important. They know that they have to be there in those spaces, but they haven't fully invested themselves to really understand how these different channels work. So we do see a mix of people doing too much or feeling like they have to participate in every conversation. And then there are brands that I feel like have such a great relationship and communication with their audience. And that's the lane that they should focus on. Talk to your people. Cultivate that community, make them feel a part of your success story, because they are the reason you are successful. So I think that there's still a lot more room for improvement when it comes to how brands interact and engage with consumers and how they use social media.
Yeah, and you talk about success story, and I think something too, if we talk about dream driving, is you started, and I'm just saying this from an external person looking in, right? You also started to come out from behind the brand and put yourself out there more. And there's something I remember for the longest while, you did not even have a headshot. Remember, you're I need new headshots. I hate taking pictures of myself. But now I feel your website is beautifully designed. We have these gorgeous Sakita Holley headshots, right? You yourself went through a transformation when you were all right, this is my season and I'm going to put myself out there, right? Why that change, or what inspired that change within you? Because that could be tough or scary for a lot of people who might be in that situation as well. Dream drivers, Hennessy celebrates those who never stop and never settle in their never-ending pursuit of greatness. Maurice Ashley lives his passion. Through his love of chess, he made history in 1999 as the world's first Black Grandmaster. An inspiring story of intellect and brilliance, his ability to push the potential of his own mind to new levels of greatness is universally inspiring. Visit Hennessy.com to learn more about Maurice Ashley. In the world of the mind, there are no limits. Hennessy, never stop, never settle. Dream drivers, Disneyland Resort invites you to celebrate soulfully this summer at the happiest place on earth, and there are so many things to explore. I'm a huge Lion King fan, so I'm going to be checking out Tale of the Lion King, a live stage show narrated by the storytellers of the Pride Land. Simba's rise to royalty is presented in a unique theatrical style with live music and dance inspired by the story's cultural roots. Theme park admission and park reservations are required for park entry. Visit Disneyland.com for more details and theme park tickets. It's summer, and I know we all are on the quest for the perfect beverage to quench our desire for refreshing. So here's the question. What have you always wanted to try? Is there something that has been a dream of yours, a flavor, a taste that you just really need to get at? Gold Peak Real Brewed is here to unleash your thirst for trying. Real brewed tea, real cane sugar, real delicious. From sweet tea, unsweetened tea, green tea, California raspberry tea, Georgia peach tea, lemon tea, lemonade tea. There are so many options to find what's best for you. And this summer we need to try something new, try something brewed, because nobody wants to be dream driving with a dry mouth or thirsty. We need that fuel to be at our best for this ride. So take this as your sign to say yes, opt in, go for it. Because trying is what life is all about. Try Gold Peak.
It's still hard for me. And I want to talk to the Dream Drive listeners and all the dream drivers out there who are introverts or feel like they don't like taking pictures. The reality is that I had gone a really long time without proper headshots, and the things that I would never allow a client to do, I was doing personally because of my personal feelings about taking pictures and things like that. However, I knew it was something that I wanted to work on. And so I just started practicing. I was setting up shoots. I was taking pictures. I've done shoots where the pictures have never seen the light of day, but I needed to do it just to kind of get more comfortable in front of the camera. And that's something I'm still doing. But from a business aspect, the reality is I've experienced success in my business, but I know that I've also hindered just how far we can go by being in the background too much. Like right now, perception is reality if you allow it to be. You know, if you don't control the narrative of your business, of your personal brand, of your story, then you allow other people to fill in the gaps with what they think is happening. And a lot of times they may think nothing is happening if you're saying nothing.
Yep.
So if you want to continue to grow in whatever field you're in, you know, you have to figure out what's your comfort level with putting yourself out there. And I'm still trying to figure that out. And it's kind of like I'm trying to find my Beyonce method, if you will, in terms of promotion, where when she has something to promote, she'll be out there and in your face, but she's also developed a path where she can definitely retreat as well. And I know that for me personally, I'm going to need some time to retreat and recharge. So I need to figure out what is the balance. It's like maybe you have a certain period of time where you go super hard and then a certain period of time where I disappear.
No, I love that you say that because I think it's real, because I think just even in this day and age of social media, it's like there are some people online who don't care if you know everything and everything about them, right? Like, and not everybody wants to be like that. Like, how do you still maintain a private life, right? But still also having this public persona? I feel like it's a conversation that's ever shifting, because you might find yourself posting more because like, wait, why did I post this, right? Like, I even find that sometimes, like, even with my son, you guys, I have a son, as you all know, it's like, for me personally, it's like, I just want to share the world with his little cute face to the world, right? But I'm like, why are you putting you don't have to do it all the time, but part of me wants to, just because I personally just want to, share his picture. But then I have to remember, all right, Raina, this is going to live online forever. Like, you don't have to do everything, but you can like find like moments that you can share. And there's people will still want to connect with you, even if you don't post as much, right? I think there's this whole idea of like the only way that you can grow online is by sharing everything, because that's what people see these top, and I'm saying this in quotes, top influencers doing, but they're not really, they're like curating that stuff, right? So it's like you have to take that curation model as well.
For sure. I agree with that. And I think it's really, again, about finding your comfort level. And that's something that is ever changing. Yeah. There's a ton of people who share things every day. They may have multiple posts a day, but how much do you really know about them, right? So you can cultivate a community and grow a community where you're not being secretive, but you're opening up to a certain degree. Like, I feel like my online life, like I've definitely expanded upon it and have gotten a little looser with sharing more, just because I felt like people don't even know my full personality. I need y'all to know, like, I'm a good time. Like, I am a good time, but when starting a business so young in my 20s, I was very buttoned up in the early days because I'm pitching, executives that are 2 and 3 times my age. So I felt that I had to keep it like that. But now that I have this amount of time in the game and in the results that I've gotten, it's like, I'm going to post what I want to post for the, within reason. Yeah. But I think it really just comes down to personal preference, personal comfort zone. But I will say and encourage everyone to just look to Gen Z as well, because one of the reasons that they've kind of come onto the scene so strong is because they don't have a lot of the pretenses around like production value that our generation had, when it was just all about the aesthetic feed and great quality quality videos. It doesn't matter where they are, they will flip that camera around, press the record button, and then as soon as they stop recording, they're posting it. With us, we'll record it.
Like,
it may sit in the camera roll. We may text a little focus group of friends and colleagues like, should I post this? Do I need to? And we need to get a little bit more comfortable and confident at going ahead with our first mind. As long as the message is there, get it out into the world. You can fix it and perfect it later. And another one of my things is done is better than perfect. Yep. Do it, finish it, put it out there. And sometimes when I post things, I have to kind of close my eyes and close my phone and walk away because I'm like so nervous. It can be something so simple and regular, but again, I'm still developing that comfort zone muscle. So I could post something that might be so easy for somebody else to post and it'll still kind of make me a little anxious. But I know that if the message is strong, if I'm trying to help people, if I'm trying to inform in some kind of way, then I just got to put it out into the world.
Yeah, and I know one thing that you told me too, like when we're thinking about sharing, sometimes it doesn't even have to be like exactly you, but you can be sharing your perspective on things, right?
Exactly.
And that's something I love about your page. Like I'm going to hear you comment on things. I'm going to like hear Sakita's method. I might not always see you and what you're up to, but just that like commentary can also be another form of content that you can use to build and engage with your community, right?
For sure. And just documenting what's happening. But as creatives or executives, you have a thought on things. You have an opinion. And a lot of people feel like their opinion, if their voice isn't the loudest, they don't feel like their opinion matters. It does. You can change somebody else's mind about something. Or, a lot of times you may have a thought and you're like, oh, nobody's going to care. And then let's say a bigger voice or influencer or somebody with a bigger platform says exactly what you were thinking and people eat it up. And now you feel like crap because you feel like you should have put it out there.
Yep.
And I just want to encourage people, put it out there. A lot of times everything's not going to go viral. You may not have the size audience that you wish you had. But there was a good tweet that I saw recently where people feel like 100 likes is not enough. But if you were out in real life and 100 people stopped to compliment you or even stopped to give you a thumbs up, you would be overwhelmed by that love. So why don't we treat it the same online?
That is such an important thing. And I think that also can like go with just like follower counts or even go with like your audience and just feedback. Because I know for me in the beginning of the podcast, you probably knew this too. Like when you get like, your first 50 downloads, right? You're like, oh, okay. Then you get 100. And then you're like, okay, am I ever going to get more than this? And you sometimes get caught up on the number, but not thinking about it in perspective. Like if you were in a room and you were speaking to 100 people, that's a lot of people, right? Or even 300 people. So of course there's podcasts where they're getting thousands and tens of thousands of listens per episode, but also give yourself some kudos for getting that first 100 and that first 200, because that's still a lot. And that's still such an amazing feat. And I think so many times people are comparing themselves without really putting things into perspective as well.
For sure. I agree 1,000%. And it's just like, even if you have 100 followers or 200 followers, sometimes people are like, oh no, I don't want to post this until I get 500. It's like, how do you think you're going to get to 500? You have to perform for the people who are already in their seats.
Yep. Ooh, I like that. Perform for the people who are already in their seats, and know that those people might bring a friend next time, right? If you show up, maybe they need you to show up today because they needed that message today. Now they're going to tell a friend about it. But if you don't tell anybody, they're not going to bring nobody the next time because they're waiting for your message today. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Sakita, I know you have learned a lot of entrepreneurial lessons, right? As being the CEO of House of Success and just working with so many great beauty professionals and clients along the way. What's a lesson that you learned that smacks you in the face and you listen, you go always remember it?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Like, and it takes as long as it takes. Like I've been in business now for 11 years and I really thought I would be a multi-millionaire. I had these dreams of like, oh, my life is going to be so different. But I talked about this on my podcast as well several years ago where I said, what if the dream is ugly? Right? Like, what if the path to get to where you want to go isn't a straightforward path? What if it is like, you run into dead ends? What if you have to go back to the beginning? You have to be prepared for all of these things. And sometimes when I get into a place of longing for that next level or that next step, I just remind myself that it takes as long as it takes. Another lesson is that, and this is for anybody doing anything, is that you have to always be a student and look for ways to consistently up your game. And if you're passionate about something, don't quit just because you're still a beginner or because you're not gaining traction fast enough, which we just talked about with the audience. It's like dig in, right? Lean into it and hone whatever craft it is that you want to be excellent in, because success doesn't happen overnight, and success is in the details and the time that you put in.
No, it really is. And I just think that hearing you say, I just hope gives people who might be doubting themselves right now the reminder, right? Because sometimes you can just exist in your own little silo, own little bubble, not realizing that there are other people. Like, that's why I have this podcast. Like, the biggest thing that it's funny because you didn't necessarily say anything tactical, right? Like accounting or, product packaging, because that stuff can be figured out, but it's the mindset stuff. It's the belief stuff that I'm telling you. If I asked on this show 300 entrepreneurs that question, 299 are going to say something mindset related, right? Mm-hmm. Versus the tactical. Why do you think that is so? Like, why do you think that is?
Because you are, as an entrepreneur or as an executive climbing the corporate ladder, or as somebody that just has a dream, only you are in your body. Only you are in your mind. You can, and as life happens, those moments where you're feeling like you can conquer anything are going to be there fleetingly. You're not always going to have that confidence that you had when you first started. You're not always going to be in a position where you even feel like talking your shit. There are going to be days where you feel like you actually suck. There are going to be days where you feel like you're doing the wrong thing, or maybe I'm not on the wrong path. Mindset is what is going to, and working on, your mental wellness is what will sustain you to get you to a place where you can celebrate an 11-year business anniversary, because you are going to want to quit. There are going to be elements in other people who may make you want to quit. There are going to be obstacles and situations where you feel like you can never overcome them. In your mindset and how you go about finding solutions or finding the tenacity, resolve, and discipline to keep going is what is going to sustain you. Money won't. All the external stuff won't. Having the best packaging or the best product in the world won't if you feel like crap. And you have those days where you can't get out of the bed. Yeah, your product is selling, but you can't get out of the bed. So mindset really has to be and will always be, for people that are trying to do anything worthwhile, it will always be the actual and main prerequisite for success.
Hey, Dream Drivers. So you know how I start every show asking guests the same question. What inspired you as a child? What were your childhood dreams? I remember as a kid, a place I always wanted to visit was Disneyland Resort. Why? It always represented a place of dreams, a place of wonder, a place where imagination and creativity were put on a pedestal. It was just a magical and happy place. Well, guess what? Disneyland Resort can still be the place where you go to fulfill some of your childhood dreams. Disneyland Resort invites you to celebrate soulfully this summer at the happiest place on earth. And yes, you can bring the family too. There's just so many things and so many types of dreams you can put in motion. Let me give you a little taste. If you have little ones, you can inspire their own dreams by rediscovering and celebrating Simba's journey from timid cub to mighty king with Tale of the Lion King, a live stage show inspired by the Lion King. Think live music and dance inspired by the cultural roots of this timeless story. If you're looking for adventure and heroic encounters, visit Avengers Campus to train with the Dora Milaje and see Black Panther in person. Now, if music is your thing, from June 1st to July 4th, you can enjoy Celebrate Soulfully offerings that coincide with Black Music Month. Check out Disney California Adventure Park, where they will offer daily live music celebrating the sounds of doo-wop and Motown, or go to Downtown Disney District and check out The Soul of Jazz and American Adventure, a touring exhibit that illustrates the legacy and dynamic history of jazz. Something about seeing the past can help plant some seeds for what you might want to do in the future. And y'all know I'm a huge foodie and used to want to be a chef as a kid, so I know I check out Downtown Disney District to enjoy some Creole cuisine at Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen, or to try to find some new favorites from local Black-owned food trucks. There are many ways to feed every part of your soul and reactivate that inner child in you throughout the Disneyland Resort, making this summer the perfect time to visit. Remember though, theme park admission and park reservations are required for park entry. Make sure to visit Disneyland.com for more details and theme park tickets. Think to yourself, what childhood dream can I bring to life this summer at Disneyland Resort? Dream Drivers, life is sweet and made even sweeter when spent with the ones you love. Savor the moment, big or small, with a delicious bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drink, or for a new favorite sip whenever you get thirsty along that dream driving journey. Check out the full Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee lineup online or wherever you buy groceries. Because with Starbucks coffee, you're always ready for the right now. Say that again. When talking about quitting, right, you could also talk about pivoting, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a time when pivoting is the answer to quitting? Does that question make sense?
It does make sense. And I just want to say, and I recommend this book all the time. I probably recommended it in 2016. Read The Dip by Seth Godin, because even though I say don't quit, I also had a caveat before I said that, where it's like, if you're passionate about something, if you feel like this thing won't leave you, if you feel like God placed it on your heart. But then there are some things that we just do where it's like, oh, this feels good in the moment. If it's one of those things, by all means, you can quit that. Yeah. By all means, you can pivot. But if you feel like this is a destiny aligned thing, or it's a God-given thing, then you will find a way to keep going.
And the thing is, I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. The thing is, like, you know, this whole thing is a journey, right? So sometimes you think about the analogy of dream driving, right? Like sometimes you might have to get off on an exit, refuel, right? And while you're at the rest stop, you might see something new, like, let me try this gas station instead, right? And you end up getting back on the highway, but now you got a different type of gas in you, right? Mm-hmm. And that new like refueling and pivoting might lead you to somewhere else that you might not have noticed if you hadn't got off to get gas at that specific moment. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say
it absolutely makes sense. And what I would say to even enhance what you just said is to be open to where the journey leads. Be open to things that you may not have thought would be a part of your journey coming to fruition. Be open to pivoting. Like there are certain things, like even changing the name of my podcast from Hashtags and Stilettos to the Sakita Method was a challenge for me because of how comfortable being behind the scenes was. And I never wanted to put my name on anything. I was just comfortable putting things out into the world, letting them take on a life of their own. But then it got to a point where it could be disconnected from who I am. So it was, even though people were like, oh, this is the perfect name, because I actually had, called something the Sakita Method back in 2011, 2012. I had an episode named after that. It was like, everybody's like, oh, this is perfect. But for me, I was in agony making that decision. So it's just like, but I knew it was the right thing to do, but I never thought I would ever. I had all these other names and it was just like, nope. Cause I would have just had to keep changing it. But this is it, knowing you got to lean into it, and you got to also be open to being pulled out of your comfort zone. If you won't go, you will be dragged.
When you made that, now that you made that change, right? Like what were some of like the direct results that you saw once you implemented that change?
It was a clearer path to back to my main core business of House of Success PR. It was like people could then fully connect a name to the expertise, to the business. And that has led to more business. You know, it's like people can, instead of when you're not hiding, people can find you. A lot of times people feel like they get overlooked for opportunities, but you're not being overlooked if you're hiding.
Yep. And would you say that timing, like it made sense that you did it now, right? Do you think that if you had made that name change earlier, things would have been different? Or like, are you happy that you did it at the time that you did? Like you were ready for it when you did it?
I think even from the beginning, if it was called the Sakita method, because again, the Sakita method, I said it I tweeted about this in my kind of philosophy, which hasn't changed in 2011, 2012. I didn't start the podcast until about 2015. Had I come out the gate naming it the Sakita method, the results would have been the same that they are now. It just would have happened sooner.
Okay.
And I think at the time I was still in this hiding pattern or just playing the background. Whereas if you going to call it the Sakita method from jump, we're going to need to see who Sakita is. We're going to need to hear her. She's going to need to be fully present and accounted for. And I wasn't really ready for that type of attention yet, even though I felt like my opinion and perspective and the things that I knew was valuable, I was comfortable kind of doing it with this cover or cloak of being behind the scenes.
Yeah. And talking about like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you launched a journal, right? Was that last year?
Yep, it was last year.
Last year, what made you do that? Was that something that was always kind of on the back, you know, in your mind? You just hadn't put it to life yet?
For sure. So one of the things that I've always loved and wanted to create and that I still need to continue to push forward with is a line of office supplies and accessories. So that was always something that I wanted to do because I'm somebody that I'm always buying journals, notebooks, like I'm just always buying them. So I knew I wanted to kind of have my own, and there's more to come with that. And that was another thing that I agonized over for months and years. I had talked about doing this for years. People had asked me to do it. People have asked me for all different kinds of products. And I have a whole running list of things that I plan to put into the world. But sometimes it just takes, again, it takes as long as it takes for me to get out of my own way and do it. But on the flip side of that, something my grandmother always says to me is that everything happens in divine, right, and correct order. Sometimes I feel like it takes me forever, but then I have to also think maybe this is the right time.
Yeah, because like, you know, would Sakita have known what you know about business, about the online world, e-commerce, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? Like there's so much you learn from your clients as well that I'm pretty sure it helped you with your own launch and rollout. And what I hope was made your journal launch successful, right?
For sure. A lot of the work that we do launching new products informed how I wanted to roll mine out. So it definitely, you know, I was more prepared with time. If you are working while you're waiting, you'll be more prepared for anything. If you continue to do things while, even if you're in your own way, you have to figure out a way to kind of keep doing things, keep getting better, keep learning. So I'm just trying to focus on, sometimes I beat myself up for how long it takes me to really pull the trigger on things. And I need to give myself a little bit more grace with that, but it does take me a while. And that goes back to mindset.
But when you pull that trigger, what you pulled, right?
Listen,
what's coming out of that gun, right? Is straight fire, literally. So
yes, thank you for that.
No problem. You know, and I know I'll let people definitely check out your podcast episode, the Sakita method, where you outline that stuff. But you on your website, you have them all the stuff, the 11 method, the 11 what would you call them? 11 principles, right? Mm-hmm. Thinking about all the principles that you have, we're all in working progress, right? What's one of those principles for you that is still something that you are working on personally?
It covers exactly what I just said, and it's done is better than perfect. Like, stop being this. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So it's like I have when I think of things, it's like, it's this perfect idea. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And if I can't do it to that level, I'm just not going to do it. But it's like, we may have a standard, right? Yeah. And when we put something out, everybody else thinks it's amazing and we think it's terrible because of the standard that we have. What I find is that my standard is so high that no matter what I put out, because I care so much, it's always going to either meet or exceed the standards of my community, because they also know that my heart is in it, and I'm not just going to do anything or put anything out. So it's just like allowing myself, and for other people listening, we have to get out of our way so that when God places something on our heart to do, we do it. And we're not, Rick Ross says this thing, and I love his business mind, but he says, we can take our time, but we shouldn't be wasting time.
Ooh, I have to do in the Rick Royce grunt.
Okay. Okay. It's like you can take it. It can take as long as it takes, but we shouldn't be wasting time in the meantime. Right. Yeah. Do what you got to do behind the scenes, but don't let anything kind of get you off course to the point where you've wasted this time. Cause it's like, it may take me longer to do things, but in the middle of that, like I had my journals, the physical journals inventory in hand for six plus months before I actually launched it. I had the photos, I had all the marketing, I had everything
so
ready.
You were just like, was it fear? Was it that?
Of course. It was like, oh my gosh, this is my first product. This is the first piece of merch I'm doing. It was all of those things. And then even the day before or the day of, when I knew I was about to hit go on everything, I was just like insane. I got my first order within minutes of putting it up.
Right. I know when I got that email, I was like, let me order something now. Like, people want to support you. And you don't even realize, like, there are people out there waiting. They're waiting for Sakita. They're waiting for Raina to drop something, right? But we're the ones.
This is why I say perform for the people that are already in their seats. You have an audience that has been waiting for the curtain to go up.
Literally.
That's it. Like, you have people waiting right now, and sometimes it can feel like, I don't know. But what I love about being purposeful and intentional is that, let's say that it wasn't a successful launch or rollout. Like, if you do something and your heart is in it, no matter what happens, you are going to learn. You win or you learn. You win or you learn. We have to stop looking at things as like win or lose. How can you lose if you've learned something to improve upon for the next go round?
What did you learn from this launch?
That I got to get out my own way. The people are ready. They want more. They want more. And I have more to give. And I have to stop playing in the sense of all of the doubt, all of the going back to the mindset thing. It's all about mindset. I admire people. Even there are some people, and I did an episode about this early in my podcast about like fake gurus, but there are people that are so confident and they be wrong as hell. Like, Raina, they just be so wrong.
Listen, can I give you an example real quick? I think I talked about this on my podcast. I'm like, think about all these little mumbo jumbo rappers out here, right? Like, the Gen Z mumbo jumbo rappers. To me, they're absolute trash, right? But there are people out there who are paying for studio time, who are making records, and their music is not good, but they are just so confident and they believe in that they're out there getting deals, whatever it is. They're out there building a following. Like, there's somebody out there.
Their streams are going up. Money is going into their pocket. They are being booked to do shows. Yeah. And it's because they had the confidence to plug the mic in, to go and sit in front of a mic or go into the studio. And then they had the confidence to upload it to SoundCloud or wherever.
Invest in themselves, right?
Invest in themselves. And it's just like, you have to believe. There's a lot of people becoming rappers just because they can get the right outfit. They don't care about the craft, right? And the industry has moved away from, you have to be invested in the craft to make it into this industry. Now it's a free for all.
Yeah, I'm about to be a rapper, Sakita.
Listen,
drops 101.
Listen,
dropping soon.
Listen, the barriers to entry are lower, but it's just like, there's so many confident, talent. There are so many talented people who are sitting on their talent because of fears, because of doubts. And it's just like, close your eyes and hit upload, close your eyes and hit post, close your eyes and hit share, put it out there. Put it out there and then keep going. We cannot continue to hold on to what God has given us. And another thing, Raina, you asked earlier about like when I started to be more visible, what pushes me outside of knowing that I could potentially continue to build my business in a better way. Yeah. What pushes me is the fact that we're not as young as we used to be when we started this thing. And when we first connected, we are 10, 11 plus years older. Oh, listen, we are still young.
I know.
But the reality is like time is not stopping, right? Yeah. Time goes on. And I don't want any of us to look back and feel like, darn, I should have done more or I could have done more. I want us to try to, once we decide to be done with something, I want us to leave empty.
Yeah. To keep it real with you, one of my biggest hurdles lately has been like with the shift into the video world. As you know, like the podcast, I just feel like, am I not allowing the podcast to grow in a way that it could evolve, right? If I were to step into video, I'm like, oh my God, audio every week is just a lot. Now having to be camera ready, now having to be, book a studio or create one, like it just seems like a lot. But when I look at these like podcasts that are popping up, you probably see them on your feed too, right?
That are going viral and you never heard of them before. But guess what, Raina? I'm in the same boat and the answer is yes. It has to be done. It has to be done.
I'm like, can I just try? And it's just to keep just doing audio only, but it's like, you're going to try, you're going to have the same results, right? So it's scary, but it's like, you're not necessarily, what's the word? Like, am I not copping out? Am I just following a trend? No, right? You're actually being smart about how you can reach more people. And I think that's where I have to get out of my own way is to stop. Like, cause I hate being on video. I do my little like raindrops in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. That took a lot for me. I got so comfortable behind the mic, but now I'm realizing like people want to support you in front of the mic too, right? And like they want to see your face. They want to see you engage with people. And I'm just nervous as hell to venture into that and really put my all. But I feel like it's kind of like the fear of success. You know that if you do it well, you could be good, but will you be able to manage it? That's been like in my thinking lately. Like, what if you really pop off on video? Like, what? I
love that you mentioned the fear of success. That's something I've dealt with too. And the reality is, and again, mindset, right? Yeah. You have to think if whatever your religion is, and this is to anybody listening, whatever you believe in, whether it's God, the universe, or anything, is that thing is going to provide, because we're not out here. Think about the fact that even if we're doing something similar, right? Our paths are still different because God gave us different paths. Like we were given different things. So you have to trust that the provisions will come with the success, that the team will come with the success, that people will want to be a part of your success. As my business has grown and that we still have a very small team, but I pray all the time that God brings the right people into my life, the right clients into my life so that I can continue to grow and that I can continue to be given grace as we grow and expand. Because again, it's going to be a level as we continue to do that I've never quite experienced, and I may be learning as I go. Same thing with our podcast and video. It's like, I know that that's the next step. I think about it often as I get ready to record the next season of my show. It's like, darn, I'm gonna have to be on camera because again, attention spans are evolving. The algorithm is prioritizing video, but from a consumer and a listener standpoint, it's easier to consume a video. Even if it has captions on it, it's easier for them to consume it and share it. Like when I was just doing, the audiograms, the hardcore people would listen and share it. But for the most part, if you post a video, they'll share that before they'll share a regular static audiogram with the picture of whoever's on the episode.
Yeah. So it's just like realizing that times are changing. And it's not that you're selling out. That's what I was thinking of, right? Like, am I selling out to what my true first vision of a podcast was? But the definition of podcast has changed, right? And you have to change with it and give yourself grace that you'll grow with it and you'll evolve with it. Because, like, business, what if Coca-Cola still was putting cocaine in there in the soda, right?
Listen.
That's a whole nother story.
Right.
But as we wind down, Sakita, as you're looking back at your journey, right? We spoke in 2016, you're looking backwards and into the future. Like, what are you proud of yourself about? Like, what's something, if you had to like title the end chapter in your book right now, like to be continued, but what's that title?
The title is I'm still here. Like, I'm still here. I have overcome any obstacle that I've faced over the last 11 years. And really, I think the title is I didn't give up on myself. The chapter is called I Didn't Give Up on Myself. I kept going. I kept trying, regardless of how many tears I had to cry. And I feel like, I've been in business 11 years, which is crazy to say, but I really feel like I'm still just getting started. Like, I feel like I have so much more to give. I feel like the things that I have yet to put out into the world are going to change my life exponentially for the better.
Right. And like, you never know. It's just that it might be the thing you might not have even like the least expect. Right. It's kind of like when a video reel goes viral. Like for me, like one of my like most viral reels was like the one I posted of my dad and my son. Right. And to me, that was just a feel good, like whatever. I did like a whole, like I'll do this in 2 seconds. I made it and put it up and it just went off. People loved it because you don't really know sometimes. And that's why you just have to put things out there because you could be sitting on that $1 million idea. As you said earlier, right?
Yep.
You're going to be real mad when somebody else comes along and had that.
Listen.
You at least try.
Exactly. So it's don't give up on yourself. And you just got to kind of put your art into the world, or you either do it or you'll be miserable because it's not going to leave you. The things that leave you, the things that cease to matter to you, those are the fleeting things. But I'm sure for everybody listening and also for you, Raina, there are things that you want to do or have wanted to do that you still think about every day or almost every day.
No, that's true. I'm thinking about it now. So true. Like it doesn't leave you. It really
it
you
will
might
not
try
leave
to make
you.
It leave you, but it's gonna come right back.
Exactly. So it's just a matter of time for you to kind of be in position to put it out there. And those are the moments that we have to live for and lean into.
Thank you so much, Sakita. This conversation has been like what I needed today personally on the day of recording. So hopefully by the time this goes up, like it's going to resonate with whoever's listening. And I just hope that they get as much out of this conversation as I have. So just thank you.
No problem. I'm always happy to talk with you. And, we could run our mouths for a long time.
Yes.
So thank you.
And let our dream drivers know where they can connect with you online if they want to find out more about who this Miss Success is.
For sure. So on Instagram and Twitter, I am Miss Success. That is MISS Success. You can also find the podcast, The Sakita Method, on anywhere you listen to podcasts. And the website is itsthesakitamethod.com. And you can also find the journals there as well.
I almost forgot to ask you, right? Our last question about, keys to success. You can't be a dream driver without your keys to success. So Sakita, before we go, let our dream drivers know 3 things that they need in their toolkit before hitting the road.
Rest.
Yep.
I will work to the bone. I will work myself to the bone. I'm not afraid of hard work. That's how I got here. The importance of rest is it's just what will get you to that next level. Rest when you need to. Rest, but don't quit. Again, a desire to be better, and then the discipline to put that desire into practice. And lastly, figure out what and who is a part of your support system, whether it's friends, family, therapy, or even an app like Calm or Headspace. You need something or someone to help you quiet the noise when the world gets too loud.
I love that. Rest, desire to be better, and then that support system. Thank you, Sakita.
No problem.
COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too. If you feel symptoms, even if they're mild, you should test fast. Test positive and at high risk for severe COVID-19? Then act fast with authorized oral treatments that can be taken at home and must be taken within 5 days from when symptoms begin. COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too by asking your healthcare provider if an oral treatment is right for you. Learn about a treatment option at treatcv19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
All right, so that was a wrap for episode 321 with Sakita Holley. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dreams and drive journey, as well as her keys to success. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it. I really do love to see you guys, engaging with the episode and with us on social media. So just go to Dreams and Drive on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I mostly am on Instagram nowadays, but please make sure that you're sharing this, tagging this, reposting it, posting it to your Instagram stories, tagging Sakita, going and following Sakita. Do the whole gamut, right? I really just love to see you guys engaging and sharing this and helping us grow the Dreams and Drive community, because there are dream drivers out there who don't even know that they're dream drivers, and having you share helps us grow. If you want to join our email newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly email updates delivered right to your inbox, you know what to do. Go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And lastly, if you've reached to this point in the episode and you I have a great story and I want to be on the podcast, then you already know what I want you to do. Pitch, right? Go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. That's dreamsanddrive.com/pitch to pitch the podcast and your story for a chance to be on the next episode of Dreams and Drive. I do go in and just see all the great things that you guys are posting. So please make sure that you are sharing your story if you feel like you have a great one. As always, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we will chat again in episode 322. Bye, guys.